Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to today's Place Scrutiny Committee. The date is the 14th of March. I am the chair of this committee, Councillor Lisa Dimmock, member for Port Stewart Ward. I will quickly go around and do some introductions and then we will go on to the agendaed items. So first of all, Councillor Strong, can you introduce yourself?
Morning, Chair. I'm Councillor Jackie Strong from Caldicott Cross Ward and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Councillor Brown?
Good morning. I'm represent Shire Newton Ward and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bryn?
Bore da, I'm Councillor Bryn. I'm the member for Washington Ward in Monmouth and a member of this committee.
Councillor Lucas? Oh, Councillor Lucas' screen has frozen. Councillor Lucas, you've frozen. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, morning everybody. Councillor James for Austin Ward in Monmouth. Very sorry, I seem to have some technical issues at the moment. My internet.
Okay, we'll try and manage that. Councillor Stevens?
Good morning, thank you, Chair. Councillor Maria Stevens, representing 7 Ward, Caldicott, and I'm a member of this committee.
And Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, good morning, Bore da. I'm Tudor Thomas and I represent Park Ward in Abergavenny and obviously a member of this committee. Diolch.
Lovely, thank you. So just quickly, some housekeeping. Microphones kept off when you're not talking. Cameras kept on at all times for all of us attending remotely. I'm going to ask members to limit your questions to 3 questions at a time. I will allow members to come back in if they have more questions. It's just to give officers and cabinet members an opportunity to just have a little break in between, and also to ensure all questions are getting answered, because if you do ask lots of questions, some things do get missed. We've also got officers Jane Rogers and Dave Jones. Would you just like to quickly introduce yourself?
Good morning, Dave Jones, Head of Public Protection.
Good morning, councillors. I'm Jane Rogers. I'm the Director for Social Care, Safeguarding and Health, and Public Protection falls into my directorate.
Lovely. And Rob, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Morning, everyone.
Scrutiny team.
Yeah, Robert McGowan, Scrutiny and Policy Officer.
So first item is apologies for absence. So we've had apologies from Councillor Davis and Councillor Wright. Declarations of interest, we will take those as and when, if any members have some declarations to raise. Public open forum, we don't have any members of the public, I believe, Rob, but obviously for any members of the public who are watching, you are always more than welcome to attend and ask questions. So the item we will be scrutinising today is one of our favourite reports. It's the local toilet strategy. So I will hand over today. Is it Dave or is Angela introducing the report?
Councillor Sandals first.
Okay, lovely. Over to you, Councillor Sandals.
Good morning, Bore da. I'm Angela Sandals, Councillor with responsibility for public protection. The purpose of this report is to scrutinise progress on implementing the actions identified in Monmouthshire County Council's local toilet strategy. It's a statutory duty to produce this strategy as required under Part 8 of the Public Health Act Wales 2017. We must publish any significant changes to our local toilet strategy content, and after pre-decision comments and an individual cabinet member decision, we'll update the Welsh Government. The duty to prepare a local toilet strategy does not require local authorities to provide and maintain public toilets directly. In our county, many public toilet blocks are now transferred and managed by our town and community councils, which has been a real success in ensuring that many of the facilities stay open. It's for the county council to take a strategic view on how publicly accessible toilets can be provided and accessed across the county. Place Scrutiny Committee members in January 2023 asked for responses on a number of matters. The Head of Public Protection, in consultation with various other MCC officers, provided responses to each query in a written reply, shared with committee members on the 6th of April 2023. This is provided in your document pack as Appendix 1. This attachment also provides updates on activity and the progress we've made since April 2023. I hope you will agree that this report is the result of much work, and I thank all the officers who have been involved in progressing the identified actions. I'm now going to hand over to David Jones, Head of Public Protection, to summarise the report and advise committee members on the progress that we've made since January last year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Sandals, and thank you, Chair. Yeah, there's obviously quite a lot of paperwork with this one, so I will summarise, as Councillor Sandals indicated, but I'll highlight some of the issues. What I've got in front of me is the covering report, so I'll very quickly go through that. The main focus, I think, as indicated, would be Appendix 1, which is the actions from January 2023. The third attachment then is the actual strategy itself, but if we cover off the actions, that pretty much covers off what the amendments are to the strategy. And then the fourth attachment is the integrated impact assessment, if Council's got any members on that. So I'll go through it. I think it'd be helpful, Chair, if members have got a question, because there's different elements to it, it might be helpful if we go to the covering report to indicate it by number, 3, 2, etc. So the strategy is quite extensive, isn't it? It's over 20 pages. Because I think online it's a different page number sequencing than someone who may have hard copy, it'd be helpful to say 12.2 in the strategy. Dave, what do you think would be a way of navigating?
Okay.
Okay.
I will ask members to try and ensure they give the point, but obviously if they've just written their questions down and now can't locate it, well, we need to try and accommodate.
I'm sure we can navigate our way through it, Chair. So yeah, in terms of the covering report, as Councillor Sandals says, it's a legal requirement, so that's why it's here. It was produced in 2019, doesn't seem too long ago, but nearly 5 years ago now. So it is due we have looked through it annually, but I think it is now due to be republished. So if we can take on any comments the members will have, as per recommendation 2.2, we will take that into the final version, further to discussion, that Councillor Sanders would sign off as the Cabinet member with responsibility. So that's the process. Key issues, I think, have been already flagged up. So some of that's a bit of a repeat of what you would have heard last January in terms of how we got to where we are in terms of public consultation, which occurred a while back now, but pertinent points about access and availability across the county. 5, 6, skipping along, will be the main focus of the discussion today, which is the action plan, is found in Appendix 1. And then just quickly in terms of some of the stuff that has been updated since then, landlord service has been out this year particularly. 5 blocks have been repaired. When I talk about blocks, that's your sort of High Street facility, Abergwenny bus station, Welsh Street, Chepstow, as opposed to that's not the only publicly accessible toilets. They're all available in our hubs, libraries, leisure centres, etc. That is focusing particularly on the 18 what we call traditional blocks, just to be clear as to what we're talking about. So they've been busy this year. 5 blocks were repaired, 2 in Abergwenny, 2 in Chepstow, 1 in Tynton, as per 3.7. Also, and in terms of updates, I know Councillor Bryn flagged up stoma-friendly toilets last time, so we have made progress on that, you'll be pleased to know, since last January. 2 specific issues, which are in the covering report, 3.9 and 3.10. Update regarding the motions brought forward by Councillor Pavia in December, which was to support the Boys Need Bins campaign, which is all about providing sanitary bins in male toilets. So we're getting that moving in terms of contacting all those providers. So Town and Community Council has been contacted. There's a level of support, I think, in terms of widening out sanitary bin provision, but I think perhaps we'll get to that when we look at the action plan. But that's there in the covering report. So that's one thing that's happened over and above the debate last January 2023. And the second one really to flag up is Wales Seniors Forum 310. They've contacted us with an interest as to what the strategies are now looking like, knowing that they do need to be reviewed. That's a requirement from Welsh Government. So that's summarised in 310, where I make the point. I've obviously responded to that query, and also our ambition as an authority to achieve age-friendly community status. So that public consultation is just completed. So I think if you look through all the documentation, it's not just about bricks and mortar, it's about public health, it's about accessing towns, and that's why clearly there's a direct link there. One of the criteria for that is buildings, outdoor spaces in buildings, and they haven't managed to collate all that information yet. I think it only finished last week. When they do anything regarding public toilets, well, should be fed into this process of looking at our toilet strategy going forward. I think there's about over 1,100 responses to that so far, and I think the paper ones are still being collected by our policy and performance colleagues. So that's a part of it as well. So that's different to perhaps what we discussed last January. As I said, the integrated impact assessments was raised last meeting with a view to put more emphasis on that disabled provision and changing places. So I think if you looked at the fourth attachment, that then does update and some good news, I think, changing places forward as well, which we'll get to when we get to Appendix 1. Options, there aren't any options really because there's a statutory requirements. So that's Section 5. Section 6, how do we evaluate it? So I think it's helpful to have a scrutiny every 12 months that can obviously ensure that officers are sticking to what's in the action plan, otherwise it becomes a bit meaningless. And I think, as indicated by Councillor Sandals, this involves a number of officers. SRS in terms of getting the database right, liaising with Welsh Government to get the spatial map done. That now works, you'll be pleased to know, so we can talk about that as well. But I think it's involved a lot of people, Jan Baldwin and the cleaning staff in terms of cleanliness. Environmental Health go out and inspect them. And also not missing that point that publicly accessible toilets isn't just in our domain, not just town and community councils. The likes of our supermarkets are more than happy to provide that public provision in our main towns. So that is all covered off in terms of involving others. So I think we've got a process of evaluation. And as it happens with this particular strategy, there is a requirement to report back to Welsh Government as well. The reasons are just linking back to the recommendations. It is a requirement under that Act that's been highlighted. And obviously we welcome those comments from members. So I don't know, do you want me to pause there in terms of the overview, Chair? That's what we're going to look at this morning, if that's okay.
Yeah. I think that's fine. Members, the raise hand facility is now in the chat, so if you do want to come in and ask any questions, please raise your hand. Dave, I have a question. Obviously, the last survey was 2019. Will we be looking to carry out another survey in the near future to keep this document more relevant?
Yeah, it's a valid point, Chair. I think it did come up in January 2023. Time goes quickly, doesn't it?
Fast.
Obviously, we did it pre-pandemic, so we had the pandemic where things were generally closed for 2 years, particularly in terms of public toilets. So yes, it'd be an interesting question back to Welsh Government. So they determined how we went about putting a strategy together. So there was set guidance. Even in terms of the questions we asked came from Welsh Government. So I think an action for me, Chair, would be to go back to Welsh Government to say, is that something they'll probably say it's within your gift to do that. Yeah. It'd be helpful perhaps to try and link it with something else. My experience, it tends to be about numbers and volume, so the numbers and volume haven't changed. But certainly I think some way of revisiting that, because as you say, it is now coming up to 5 years old now. So
yeah, and just because we're now post-pandemic, there are still a large number of people working from home who use coffee shops and are out and about in flexible working spaces. So I just thought it would be good if we could get an up-to-date. And also, I think after reading how well Abergavenny Town Council did with surveying members of the public, I think it's an opportunity to engage all other town and community councils to use what Abergavenny did, you know, as a learned experience to get more engagement, because you look at the figures that Abergavenny, you know, they had 61% of the responses, and then you've got other town councils getting 8%. I think there's something to be learned from there. So, yeah, thank you. Anyway, Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, diolch. I think it's great news that the Boys Need Bin implementation has been rolled out, and I'm delighted to see that some of our toilets are becoming stoma friendly. So what I was hoping for was a little bit more detail whether there's an end date that we're hoping that all this will be achieved by, because I couldn't see any of that in the details. And I wondered if you could tell us about the costs. The eventual costs of all these, not just the one-off cost of putting it in place, but the ongoing costs of maintenance and whether some of the, I noticed there was a grant. So this was, you said you need to tell us 15.2 and number 10 and item 10, I think, the stoma-friendly items are, and then in 15.3 it mentions a grant of 17,200, and I wondered if some of that grant could be utilised for these implementation, as it now seems to be homeless. And that's it, really. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, there's one other thing I was going to say, because I knew there was one other, and I'm allowed 3, and there was the web. I know we're now able to put it up on the web, the toilet facilities, and I wondered if the facilities that you indicate are available on the web will be the fact that there now will be bins, and that some of the toilets will be stoma friendly and so forth. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Bryn. I think it might be helpful, Chair, to go to Appendix 1, because that's got it all there in terms of stoma friendly. This is the progress. Changing places is the progress, if that's okay. So I have Councillor Bryn, so we'll get to those. So I'm not, but I think we'll probably cover that off as we go through. Would that be okay? So perhaps if we can do that, that covers up the actions. So I think it might be helpful to go through those.
I think a lot of our questions are going to be around the actions. So if you do want to provide a brief on the actions, I think maybe, would you agree, members, then? Because I think we're going to have everyone asking questions and then having to re-ask them again.
Yeah,
that would make it a bit easier for you, Dave.
Yeah, there's nodding this end, Chair, so would that be okay? So I'll just briefly,
that's fine.
Just briefly go through Appendix 1. So that does cover off some of the points that Councillor Bryn made. I'm sure other councillors have the same. So the first one was, embarrassingly, the hyperlink didn't work last time, if you remember. So that does work. So that's in the strategy, and it now works. So basically, the way that works, it links to the Data Wales site. So that's taken a bit of work to get that right. So spatially, you can zoom in on whatever town you may be visiting, Chepstow, for example. I did try it to make sure it worked. So there's an MCC link and a direct to Data Wales link. You put in the town, and then that will then spatially tell you where they are. You can then zoom in on Welsh Street. As you hover on Welsh Street, Chepstow, it will tell you the hours of opening, what's available when you get there. There's one male, there's one female toilet, it's a disabled facility. Is there changing space, not changing space, baby changing, which came up last time. That tells you exactly what you get when you get there. And it's also been updated. We had a couple of errors. For example, we had Baker Street, Library, Abergavenny. That's been replaced with Town Hall, Hub, Abergavenny. So that's all been updated. So that's taken a little bit of work in terms of getting it spatially right. So let me know if there's anything that seems to be astray, but people are beavering away now in the background, seeing if they can find any errors.
Yeah, no, my apologies. This wasn't working when I checked it during the week, so it is working now.
Right, okay, I'm not quite sure if there's a glitch. But it does work, so we got our student EHO on it to work back with Welsh Government who spatially map it. So that was the first action, that's been done. So the red text is what's been done since last January 2023. Contact the Welsh Government about toilets in the A40. Carl Tewig regularly meets the Welsh Government, obviously in his line of work. I'm not quite sure what the latest is on that, but they will have some plan, I guess, in terms of the closed buildings at Mitchell Troy. I did try to contact Carl, but he's actually off this week, but if we need an update on that, I'll ask Carl again. Third one there.
A written update for members so they're aware, please.
Some of these things seems to take a lot of time, but yeah, certainly I can ask Carl that to get an update for the latest position. The third one was regarding White Horse Lane that often does come up. But the query was that 93,000 seems a lot. Well, 166 is even more because the bills go up. Basically, the whole thing would be completely rebuilt from ground up. So that's Landlord Services say it would cost you 166,000 to renovate White Horse Lane. Just for those who don't know, it's pretty much opposite Barclays in Abergavenny. So the costs are high, but the action there, I think now, is we do need a decision on the future of that facility in consultation with the Town Council. Interestingly, 2019, people are very keen on it being closed, and that includes the Town Council, and then it seems to be a bit of a swing to, can we keep it open? So I think a decision does need to be made on that with Landlord Services to do options, what could be done at that site. But the costs of anyone taking it on themselves would be somewhat large, not just the capital cost, clearly, the revenue costs as well. So that was raised last time. Toilets need to be stoma friendly, to Councillor Bryn's point. So yes, that's the response in terms of the number of facilities we got. What have we done since last time? So we have got 25 disabled toilets in total. That's in terms of the traditional blocks and places like leisure centres and hubs, etc. The text in red is what we've done for this financial year. Landlord Services have been out. There are 5 elements of being stoma friendly, which is in there, which is a mirror, suitable hooks and the heights for those hooks, shelving, bins and signage. So we're okay. So they've been out and about to look at those disabled facilities. Where they've been missing, there's gaps, be it a mirror or the shelves have been taken off the doors. Those have been put in this year. So that is, I couldn't tell the exact cost of that, but it has been done. And where we had a couple of toilets that didn't have a separate disabled toilet, then we put them in, the males and the females. So if you want any exact information on that, I'd have to go back to Landlord Services. I'm not quite sure what it cost. It does cover your issue about the £17,000. That was transferred to Landlord Services in April. So for 23-24, they no doubt used some of that money to improve, to ensure stoma friendliness. And secondly, they did 5 renovations as opposed to the usual 2. So they would have spent that on repairs generally and on the stoma-friendly side of things. In terms of timeline, in terms of getting things stoma-friendly, I'd say leisure centres probably got those 5 criteria. They've got the mirrors, they've got the hooks, they've got the shelving, bins and perhaps the signage. But I've been in contact with UK Colostomy UK, sorry. We can't put them up because they're not bilingual, so we'll have to go back to say, so we got them, I got a pack of 50, 60 of them. But because of the Welsh Language Act, we can't put them up outside Brewery Yard, for example, because the Welsh language would say we're not hitting that. So either they'll do it, we'll look to do it internally, so we can look to get the, I'm sure they've probably been asked this point before in terms of Wales. So we're getting there, so we're not there yet. In terms of timeline, we're looking to progress that certainly this financial year. So of those, some are going to be lacking the bins and obviously the signage. So once we can work out the bins and the signage issues of those 5, we'd be in a position to then, we obviously can't put the signage up until it's bilingual and they're compliant, but that's the move. So as I say, places like leisure centres, you could walk in today and they will have those, and they are stone friendly. It's your traditional blocks that will struggle at the moment. But that's the ambition for this year coming. Baby changing facilities, clarification needed where they are before you set off. Well, that would be on the spatial maps that I've just referred to. So you can click on, I'm off to Monmouth. You can look at Agincourt Street and you'll see what's there beforehand. I think it's interesting to see how people actually use towns. They could be going to Witherspoons, can they? They could be using the supermarkets. But in terms of what we provide, that's on the spatial map that now does work. Certainly this week, Councillor Bryn, so that's good. So that's been done. So we have got them. I think also it tells you whether in the male or the female. I think a councillor last time said, well, what if you're a gent who's got it, happened to me back in the day, what are they also in the male toilets? So that list, so number one, the list has been updated, and secondly, it is now available through that site. And we got a link for Monmouthshire as well. Changing places, that came up as a strong emphasis last time. I think that's a success story going through 23-24. Monmouth Leisure Centre, we can now say is fully compliant with changing places criteria. That's been done. Chepstow, speaking to Mon Life colleagues, that was actually work in progress when I spoke to them, so I think that might have been finished by now, but certainly this month they're completing works to make that fully compliant. And then the other 2, it's just something about size. So I thought I'd put a picture in the map of any. It looks pretty good, doesn't it, in terms of the picture, but it's not quite there in terms of full compliance, because you'll find there's a space criteria. So it might be 20 centimetres squared short of 8 metres space. So they are a good standard. Similarly in Caldecott, same issue. So the 4 leisure centres. There's also one in the Bridges Community Centre in Monmouth. There's one in Mencap, Chepstow, and Jane Rogers advised there will be one in the Melville Centre as well. So that'll be 7. So I think it's about half of all the ones in Wales, so if you look it up. So I think we've really made progress in terms of catering for those more profoundly disabled individuals. So the picture, I think, says it all, really, isn't it? I think people entering that facility, I think, would be really pleased with the provision that's provided there, and credit to Mon Life for keeping those in such good standard. Again, it's just an aside. You can do that in a manned facility. You can't. It'd be very difficult to do that on the high street, because someone will walk in and smash it up. Unfortunately, just to make that point, the vandalism is a massive issue with unmanned facilities. Just in case we think that'd be nice to put that on the high street. Unless it's manned, it wouldn't last. It wouldn't look like that for much longer. The user satisfaction survey, we didn't capture male or female, but picking up your point, Chair, potentially we revisit that survey, and perhaps on the back of potentially the age-friendly communities piece of work, that might be something that could be a supplementary, couldn't it, as to what people's opinions are. So I think there's a way through that. Integrated impact assessment, I said earlier, has been updated. High visitor numbers, so the likes of Skenfrith, we can't as an authority start putting toilets up in everywhere people use. The cost would be astronomical. So we do rely on those sort of local pubs and other facilities that might be in the area. Skenfrith was flagged up, so we did contact them directly, and because the things change over time, they said if someone was urgent need, they'd say yes, but because people now walk through their restaurant to get from muddy boots outside to their toilets, you can imagine they're not too keen on your general rambler strolling through, which is their prerogative. So that's something we do work with the trade. Obviously, environmental health officers are out and about. They do check toilets just in terms of the cleanliness of the customers, that Costa site situation. And they also, in rural areas, would flag up that issue. Are you happy to let the public, and generally the general response is yes, if someone was in urgent need, clearly we would, an elderly or someone baby changing, for example. They'd be happy to provide that. But they don't want to publicise it on a website because they don't want to have, whole tranche of people strolling in with muddy boots potentially. So it's a bit of a sort of case-by-case basis almost, but you know, we have got a good liaison with those rural pubs, so I think that's the way we'd look to do that. White Horse Lane did have some airtime last time. I think the way forward there, and I put it there, landlord services need to pursue that. Nick Keys did contact the Kibby Walk management, and they said, no, we wouldn't want to take that on. I think people realise the cost, if you look at it, it's not looking the best state. So we do need to make a decision, since that's our asset. 7-tunnel junction toilets, I understand, just in terms of their general renovation to ensure their toilets are a suitable standard. That's a bit of a two-part, and the second one was members were keen to ensure toilets did remain free to use at the point of use. So that is certainly part of the strategy going forward. The previous actions, just very quickly, Chair, was 1 to 10. There's a couple more I've added on in terms of the strategy itself to pick up the stoma-friendly issue, the changing places. But I think we have worked through those. I've been in contact with all the town and community councils recently. Just to feedback on the cleanliness that we go and have a look at every sort of autumn, so they've had that feedback, and also to raise the boys bins for boys campaign, and as I say, a couple have already come back in support of that. There's the answer to the 17,200, Councillor Bryn, number 2, that was via to landlord services for this financial year. That's been spent. If it's not red, I won't flag it up. The National Toilet Strategy logo, which does appear in the document, we can put that up because it's obviously bilingual. So we'll put, the plan was to put them up with the stoma-friendly ones. Perhaps if there's any delay with the stoma-friendly bilingual signs, we'll crack on with the bilingual national logos signs in the meantime. So I think I've probably covered off, just looking then to 10. I don't think there's anything else that added to what I haven't already said. Then in the strategy itself, there's a few more actions, Chair, but you know, I think it's probably best to go to questions now. There's a few supplementaries that weren't on the original action plan. So that's just in terms of the total plan. You'll be pleased to say, Chair, I won't go through this, or 20 plus pages, but just to say, it updates it to refer to the Community and Corporate Plan 22-28, so obviously that's come in since it was written last time. Sections 9 and 10 are new, because that covers changing places and being stoma friendly. The links now work in terms of spatial mapping and facilities provided, and the actions clearly have then been updated to reflect what hopefully I've rattled through there. Perhaps the only other thing, perhaps I haven't covered off, Chair, is table 2 in the strategy itself in section 14. So what did we find when we went back to look at them? So Environmental Health go off to look at the 18 traditional blocks. So generally, the right-hand column picks up what they found, good, excellent, fair. So there's a slight nudge to improve in terms of what they found in September. And also in that column is property services refurbishments. So you'll see that quite a few were refurbished. So it tells you exactly which ones were refitted. So, for example, they worked on Bailey Park, which is a facility that's open on weekends in Abergavenny. So it tells you which ones are there. And obviously this month they'll look to put their 24-25 plan together as well. So I think that probably covers it. If I go back to Councillor Bryn's question, I think hopefully we covered that. In terms of dates, we're just waiting for the bilingual sign. So as soon as we get that, we can crack on with that. I'll speak to Mon Life to get them signed up. We can't put them up, unfortunately, just in English. Someone will criticise us.
Dave, just on that,
yeah.
I appreciate we need to have bilingual signs and how important it is we have English and Welsh, but to not put up the English version when we have them, I'm not sure we will be letting down English-speaking residents who require those facilities? Could that not form part of the action plan? Couldn't add in the Welsh version be part of the action plan to follow up?
I think we can't display that. We can't put things on our website that aren't bilingual. So if I put that out, if we said to Jan Baldwin in Cleanston, can you put them up outside brewery yards? Someone will ring us up and say you're not complying with the Welsh Language Act. And I see Councillor Sanders is nodding. So I hopefully I'll speak to Clostomy UK because obviously it's a UK-based organisation. Can we get them done bilingually? And I think potentially locally we'd do it. Just producing a sticker creates a bit more of an issue, and it's going to come at a bit of a cost if we do it internally. But we can't put them up as they are in English only. We went through all this with the smoking ban. We had to wait for bilingual, even though there's a slightly different timeline to England. So, But we can put the national logo up, so that'll be an indication that you have got a publicly available facility. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll cover
Sorry, carry on. Sorry for interrupting.
That was everything?
Yeah, so I think Councillor Brins was about the Stoma friendly and the timeline, what we did with the 17,000 grants and the website.
The website doesn't seem to say that they're Stoma friendly.
No. So we can't do that until none of them are Stoma friendly because it hasn't got the sticker.
But that will be an option. It doesn't seem to be an option on there, but you'll be able to add that as an option to say that, will you?
Yes. Yeah. So sorry. So basically, if you think all this was brought in 2019. There's a lot of work around the data mapping, so Clare websites, which didn't work. So there were complications at Welsh Government. That's all been resolved. So that they'd have to update the categories, which are about male, female, disabled, opening hours. So they'd have to put in a new criteria to be Stoma friendly. It's got one for changing places, I notice. Yes. Shouldn't be difficult, should it?
Okay. Councillor Bryn, are you happy for me to move on to another member's question?
Yep, diolch.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you. I was looking at 1.13 in the strategy. There's a bullet point there that says unisex provision will be considered as and when alterations are made to existing facilities in full consultation with stakeholders. I think that this needs to add some things, and my suggested wording would be to say single-sex toilets will always be provided, and also unisex provision will be considered as and when alterations are made to existing facilities in full consultation with stakeholders. But I think there also needs to be another bullet point which says unisex provision will also be single lockable door to ceiling with wash facilities enclosed, opening out to open, safe public spaces, either internally or externally. Because I think that there's an issue about safe spaces, and the fact that I wouldn't like to see that bullet point could be misinterpreted to say that we're going to change all toilets to unisex facilities, and a number of people would feel uncomfortable in going into toilets that had shared washing facilities that were enclosed and away from public view, and therefore would feel unsafe in going into such spaces. The other question I've got is about whether or not there needs to be an internal, basically whether or not there needs to be another door. What I'm thinking of is that unisex toilets, if you think of them in garages or cafes as opposed to public buildings, they tend to have be single lockable with wash facilities, and they usually have a male, female, and disabled sign on them, but they open out into public spaces, and it's fully enclosed, so you're not in a space that's a shared sex space that isn't publicly visible. So I would like to ask for those changes to the policy, just to make it clear that unisex provision is being considered after a single-sex toilets, as opposed to the wording at the moment could end up saying, oh, we'll change them all to unisex, and that'll be the end of it. And I don't think that will provide the safeguarding and safe spaces that we're talking about.
Yeah, we can certainly consider it. You couldn't, for example, say single-sex toilets would always be available, because you could go to a hub and there's one toilet there. So it's unisex, by the very nature, there's only one toilet. So you've got to be...
Maybe say toilets could, would be preferable.
Yeah,
and also...
Yeah, probably, Chair, we don't want to go through how we're going to put the text together, but I think in terms of generality, it is about safety, Councillor Brown, so we'd endorse that. I think there tends to be British standards involved and intervening ventilated spaces, so it's not my bag, so we'd have to check as to what can and can't be done. I think in terms of strategy, it's got to be a general statement, so we're not going to get into the real detail of it. But I think in terms of the wording, we can, if Councillor Brown wants to share that with me, I'll speak to landlord services to see what we can do. I get the intention, isn't it? It's about safety, particularly I think you're coming from a female user's perspective. How do we best do that? But it does say, obviously, we wouldn't just do that clearly. It would be in full consultation with stakeholders. If there's a move to change something in Abergavenny, we'd obviously liaise with the Town Council and have a full consultation process. But I think the wording needs to be careful, because we don't want to be knocked over the head with a stick. To say, I was in Abergavenny Town Hall yesterday, there was no separate provision for men. So you can wrap yourselves up. If it's very prescriptive, you can wrap yourselves up and come a cropper sometimes. But certainly the intention's right, Councillor Brown, and I'm sure we can adjust and put something into that effect.
Does the toilet strategy that we're providing relate only to things provided publicly, in other words, by the council or the town and community councils, or does it also relate to private establishments like pubs and garages and so forth?
Well, it's a bit of a grey area in terms of public availability. You speak to Morrison's, I'm sure they won't mind me using them as an example in Abergavenny. They're happy for the public to stroll in and use, because they're either customers or they're potential customers. So you can go in and not buy anything. However, they don't want any great big stickers on the front saying, come on in, because it's not the corporate look. And I'm sure the other supermarkets will be the same. So they are publicly accessible, but they're not advertised as such. So it's back to that sort of rural pub situation, if you like. They're happy for the public to use them, but not advertise the fact, because they don't want a whole pile of ramblers rolling in, for example. So in terms of the strategy, it covers all publicly accessible toilets owned and managed by MCC, and there's a list there. I think it's about 37 premises, isn't there? Which is also the Town Council ones. That's what we define as publicly accessible, is the ones that are in the strategy. I think it's right at the back, isn't it, in terms of, yes, current provision of publicly accessible toilets at the end of section 15. And we've got 38 that we define as publicly accessible. So it doesn't get into supermarkets. But as I say, that's sort of an unwritten.
Yeah. So I mean, presumably, if it's our strategy, then we've got more control over it than if it's the supermarket strategy, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got no control, particularly.
We've got more control. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the ones.
Yeah. So I think. I mean, the problem is that the tables that are provided don't actually say whether there's male, female. Unisex. I mean, I think I know in the Chepstow one in Welsh Street, I think it does tick all of those boxes, but we don't know what the situation is with regard to the other toilets, because I've just linked into the National Toilet Map, and although I don't know whether perhaps I'm not using it properly, but all it does is say to me, if I put in Chepstow, it just gives me a little arrow as to where the toilet is. It doesn't give me any information on it at all.
Can I just suggest something? Because obviously I understand that, Dave, you don't want to be too prescriptive in what we're putting into the strategy. Back in 2022, it was considered 2 members to form a bit of a working group looking at the toilet strategy. Would members be open to 2 members coming forward and doing this? Because obviously that stopped after 2022, and I think it's something during the pre-meeting there was a lot of support for what Louise was saying, and I think that's something to be taken off separately from here and to work with officers on how best we approach this. What's the members of the committee's views? Yeah, Jane.
Is it possible to get feedback from, obviously the town and community councils might be more difficult, but is it possible to get feedback from our cleaners who actually clean the facilities and who might actually know what's going on, or would it be an officer who did that?
Can I pipe up?
Of course.
The chair refers to what's happened previously. So that was Councillors Val Smith and Webb, and who's the third? And they went round with, I'm trying to think the third is now. It's on top of my tongue. Webb, Smith and another. And they went with Jan Baldwin. So that covers off the issue. And she knows where they all are, so you might get a bit lost trying to find some of these, in the wilds of Gilwyn or somewhere. So they did it that way. So welcome that. Back to Councillor Brown's earlier points. The spatial map does provide all that information, so I'm not quite sure. If you go to Chepstow, I checked myself, Welsh Street, click on Welsh Street, and it'll tell you exactly the opening hours and what you get.
Okay.
Maybe changing areas. Yes, no. So if you have another look at that, we have done that, and the link is provided in section 13 of the strategy. But yeah, over to you, Chair, in terms of whether you want a small working group. It's up to you.
Chair, I think you're right. There was quite a lot of discussion in the pre-meeting, and a lot of us have concerns. And sometimes it's a bit of a slippery slope that changes are put in motion with very good intentions, but actually we do need to keep an eye on it. People change things, and actually, it was mentioned about sort of floor to sort of door height, sort of doors and all of that, and actually safeguarding and safety of both women and girls, and also I know that Tudor Councillor Thomas also mentioned the impact on men as well. So yeah.
Okay, we'll discuss outside the meeting and try and come up with maybe 2 or 3 members who would like to form a working group to feed back into Angela on this, if that's okay with you, Angela, and what direction we'd like to take. Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good idea.
Okay. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. In the documents, it does say that the environmental health undertake annual inspections of all the public blocks. So when it comes down to town councils as caretakers, are they responsible for arranging the inspections, or do they go through the local authority, and do they have to be financed by the town council for the inspections? That was one, and I was really disappointed on the 5% response from Caldicot Town Council. As a town councillor, I was not aware of this engagement process or the consultation. So could it be an idea to have an annual strategy in place for responses as to how this is being, how the public feel about the toilet block, certainly in Caldicot, because we do get an awful lot of negativity. So those are my two questions, actually, whether it could be a good idea for an annual feedback from town and community councils. Thank you.
Yeah, so in terms of the first one, inspections, it's a free service for environmental health. So that's outlined in Table 2, 14.4 of the strategy. So they go out, they don't just, the MCC exclusive toilets, so we've got no SLA, are only Caldicot Country Park, Monmouth Cattle Markets, Maryport Street, Usk and Usk Islands are the only ones that owned by us and run by us totally. So environmental health go around all those ones unannounced, because that's the best way, isn't it? You don't want people just scrubbing it up artificially in readiness for an inspection. So those are all looked at. So the September, October visits, that was all fed back to those individual town councils. So Abergavenny would have got a letter, email from me to say this is what we found, Abergavenny bus station, Castle Street, etc. And then it depends, the SLA then should pick up the service level agreement between the town council and the county council will determine who fixes that. So I think from memory, we had a problem with the corroding concrete step. Town council, thanks for letting us know, that's you. So property services are flagged up with any structural repairs that need doing. So it doesn't come at any cost. It's an annual process that people seem comfortable with. No one's come back and said you didn't give them any pre-warning or anything. It's done with a good intention. And obviously if you do all of them, then there's a comparator there, isn't there? Which came out with the original strategy was, let's have some sort of rating scheme to see if we make any progress. So I think that if you look left to right in Table 2, there has been some progress with that. So the inspections are done annually and it's for free. In terms of engaging others, it did go through that process. I can't comment really as to what Caldicot did back then. Maybe they missed it for a reason. But it doesn't preclude anyone to tell us what they think. Abergavenny Town Council contacted me yesterday about a couple of issues. So let's not wait for some sort of annual thing. I think it's best to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. So if it is Jubilee Way, let's have that conversation. I know the Town Council got in contact with us about the SLA, which I forwarded to Nick Keys, because that's the other thing, just to emphasise, isn't it? I'm not the lord of the toilets, being called other things.
You are going to be called that from now on, Dave, just so you know.
So these issues, it's a bit of a conduit job, isn't it, to say, right, that I need to speak to Jan about that, that's a cleansing issue, I need to speak to property services about that. Modern life in terms of, so it's a bit of a, but certainly I think Caldicot Council got particular issues in terms of engagement. I think it's probably best to do that one-to-one. It's not as if we've got 45 loos and we're going to, you know, because the numbers, Abergavenny have most of them, so that's quite a regular dialogue, and hopefully we get to the net outcome of improving facilities for the public and visitors.
I think there's a lot to be learned from Abergavenny Town Council and the surveys they carried out. Councillor Stevens, maybe part of that working group we can invite Abergavenny Town Council along to share with county councillors what they did, and we can go back to our town and community councils and look to carry out the same kind of work, like Dave said, to get that same level of engagement. I think that would be really good.
That would be really, really good. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sandals, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, only briefly on the engagement piece. As everybody knows here, you know, that quite often these surveys and emails go out to town councils and they're missed. And it's something that I'm really concerned about. And one of the things I think in, you know, a general meeting has come up, that it needs to be targeted. We need to write to our town clerks and, you know, make each letter personal rather than just a generic press release or whatever. There's this survey out. So this is something. And then all of us as part of our community, you know, need to do our bit as well, because obviously as elected members we all get these generic emails as well. It's, you know, it comes to us as well to sort of a responsibility to put it out there as well. So just to say that, but hopefully, you know, this is an ongoing issue, isn't it, with all areas really. So just to flag it up that we are aware with, you know, lack of engagement. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Dave, for the report. I think I'll refer to you now in the future as Toilet Czar, but I mean, you know, that might not be appropriate. Couple of things. One thing, I'm just surprised that we had so much discussion about the Welsh language signs. You know, we are in Wales. We come under the Welsh Language Act.
Oh, absolutely.
We are supposedly pushing the language, etc. So, you know, surely we should be able to sort out if we have to produce them in-house, you know, to go alongside. So, you know, hopefully that can be done. The main point that I want to bring up is the issue of changing places toilets, and I'm heartened to see now, yes, things have improved with Monmouth Leisure Centre and so on, and Abergavenny, which isn't quite up to standard, but almost there. But you know, the main point I would make is that for somebody with profoundly disabled relative, or taking somebody who's got profound issues, it's quite awkward if you go into Abergavenny, there is no provision within the town. And a number of people have raised this with me in the past. I know that talks now about the Melville replacing Tudor Street, and whether perhaps there would be a changing places toilet facility there, because that is literally on the edge of town. It's within walking distance of Tesco's in Abergavenny. So I just put that as an aspiration that we could have for the sort of toilet strategy. And lastly, just a comment, you know, White Horse Lane, I think that is very controversial, and certainly people have emailed me in the past. It's no longer in my ward, but you know, the one thing I would say there, it would be very difficult to bring that back into service. And also Gwent Police were always concerned about issues with drug taking and antisocial behaviour in that toilet block, and damage that was caused there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Dave, Andrew, do you have any comments there, or are you happy to move along? Councillor, oh sorry, go on, Dave.
Well, yeah, just to say, note I used to be based in the Melville, Councillor Thomas, so yeah, it is on the edge of town, isn't it? And when we were based, it's multi-use site, dance blasts around the back, etc. So that would be an ideal facility. I don't know, Jane, perhaps know a timeline in terms of the Melville. Jane?
Well, the designs are in progress at the moment. There's just a few things to iron out in terms of making sure they're compliant with the heritage nature of the building, because it's actively being taken forward at the moment.
Okay, lovely. Councillor Lucas.
Morning all. Thank you very much for the report. Very interesting. I suppose my experience is particularly in reference to Monmouth. So I went looking at all of that. Just things I've spotted really as much as anything. So page 28, item 32, Priory Street is no longer open. And then when also you go onto the map, it's showing as open and it's not, okay? On the data map, when you open up the Shire Hall one, the opening times, I know this is nitpicky, but if someone's going to be nitpicky, I'm sorry. The opening times aren't correct because Shire Hall isn't open every day. Likewise for Agincourt and Priory Street, Cattle Market, sorry, Agincourt Street and Cattle Market. The Cattle Market one says it's closed from October to March. It's not. It's open all year round. And opening times in general, we have an SLA with Monmouth Town Council, have an SLA with MCC, and one of our regular complaints at MTC is the fact that the opening and closing times seem to vary considerably to whoever's on the work duty at that day, who's actually responsible for closing it up. So it's often closed when it should be open. I know it's minor points, but if you're looking for a loo and you need it, then it's an issue. MTC actually have the SLA with the Capital Market one, and to be fair, I'm not 100% sure why we didn't take up much on the survey, because trust me, we talk about it a great deal at MTC about toilets, like you wouldn't believe. And I can even tell you how much money it costs because I'm involved in the finances of all that, so I do know quite a bit about it. Didn't know, and I'm questioning whether my clerk knows that there's a free service to inspect. I will go and do some more research on that. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Thank you very much. And it's not going to be easy to please everybody, is it? And it's as simple as that. And yeah, we're doing a grand job, and yes, we could do better. But yes, I get it, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Lucas. It's difficult to keep track of 38 in terms of the detail in each one, but take your point. Yeah, I'm just looking at line 32, the museum. Yeah, clearly that's not there now, is it? So yeah, we'll take. Yeah, if you can perhaps let me know those, we'll obviously update the database. It is going to be a movable feast, isn't it? It is in the report. We will have the facility to change ourselves rather than to go back to Welsh. It's been quite a task to get data map Wales to change it for us, so we will be able to do that ourselves, and things will change, won't they? So that would have been correct probably when it was done back in 2019. So we made I know Abergavenny again, we're quick off the blocks. I'm told it's not Baker Street, it's now the Town Hall, and we changed that. We couldn't have got that feedback from Monmouth for whatever reason, but now you've told us we can make those changes, so thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Councillor Strong.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to just touch on some of the points that have just come up and just make something else as well. The change in place is really good that, we do seem to be really thinking about this and actually moving it forward, and we look forward to the Melville plans coming into fruition as well. Along Severn side, a bit disappointed. Obviously, we've got Chepstow and the Mencat building, which is fab. The leisure centre in Caldecott isn't quite up to change place standard, but there isn't anything else along Severn side. I am really disappointed that Mega Hub didn't go the full hog and have a change in place in there, because that would have been an ideal situation for people on a day out, whether they're coming back from shopping or whatever. So that's a real disappointment. I just want to, reinforce what Councillor Brown said about the safety of women and girls in public toilets. But I just wanted to touch on, and it's something that you, Dave, mentioned in passing, was a bit about damage to toilets and how much that's going on. And there was some indication in the report about working with Gwent Police about antisocial behaviour and drug taking and all that. And that must be huge for the members of staff that are going in there day to day to do the cleaning. And I think we ought to really appreciate their endeavours to keep us all, with those toilets, up and running, even when things are going on there. So could you just give us a bit more detail about, some of the stuff that's going on and how you actually manage that? Thank you.
Yeah. In terms of the damage to toilets, that can be considerable. I know that September, for example, Bailey Park, they smashed them up. So it's £3,500 that's got to come from a budget to repair those facilities. It is an ongoing issue. We probably could give you pounds and pence as to the costs of vandalism, but it is significant because they're unmanned, and unfortunately people go in and rip the doors down, which is a bit unfortunate. The Gwent Police, I think we just need to reconnect with them. They were very engaged actually in 2018, 2019. Again, particularly in Abergavenny, strangely, but I've seen an enthusiastic police officer there. So I think we do need to revisit that. But yeah, if you get feedback from Jan Baldwin, who's obviously the facilities cleaning manager, she says, drug paraphernalia is a big issue, so they do need to, and credit to them. So in terms of the general cleaning, it'd be pretty unbelievable what people get up to in public facilities. But certainly the drug taking is an issue in terms of sticking in bins, so they're very careful in terms of collection of those bins. As are in Abergavenny, for example, PHS that pick up the sanitary bins as well. They're very mindful of sharps, which is unfortunately where people will use while starting about in the towns. So we like to think of them used as public toilets, but people are using them, unfortunately, for other reasons. But valid points on Gwent Police. I think there have been a number of changes in terms of the staffing locally, so I think it'd be helpful to re-engage with them and see what their issues are currently. But if you speak directly to cleansing staff, they do say there's a big issue with drug paraphernalia and obviously disposing of it safely. So when you go in at 8 o'clock, it's all been cleaned up, but can be a bit of a mess by all accounts. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions from members? Councillor Lucas?
Yeah, Chair, if I may, in reference to what we were the toilet Zara was just talking of then, David, in reference to the drug taking, in Monmouth we've actually put in the blue light, so at great cost a couple of years back actually, so that apparently, I should say apparently because I don't know, but when you're taking drugs, you can't see your veins, so that they can't use it, or whatever it is. And we also were talking about providing, and I'm pretty sure we have, a safe sharps box. But that was the intention. And I was in the loos the other week, and I got to be honest, I didn't notice the sharps box. So I will chase that up, because I know that was the intention, that we would have safe sharp boxes there.
Yeah, Jane, I was down in the toilets yesterday and I didn't notice the sharps box. That doesn't mean it's not there, but I don't think so.
No, I didn't either. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the blue lights. I know Chepstow looked to them. I don't think they did pursue it, but they certainly thought about that in terms of discouraging people to use toilets inappropriately. The sharps, they'll just throw them in the sink, so they're not too concerned as to where they may put those sharps. But I think it is about, back to Councillor Strong's point, let's engage with Gwent Police, because they've changed so much in terms of personnel. What are the issues they're dealing with? I know they arrested some people in Abergavenny, for example, some years ago, particularly around White Horse Lane, as Councillor Thomas highlighted, and they were mad keen on getting it closed. There's a massive resource for us going down there permanently, dealing with drug taking. So that's another issue with that particular block. But I think that wider issue about antisocial behaviour, drug taking, sharp boxes, etc., we can have that discussion with Gwent Police and our cleansing staff as well. Thanks.
Okay. From me, just quickly, I know that we spoke about the radar keys in full council when Councillor Pavia's motion came to full council, and obviously Angela spoke about radar keys. Not everyone who has a disability gets given a radar key. There are clinics running out of places like Chepstow Hospital and Neville Hall for certain illnesses, especially for newly diagnosed patients who suffer from urinary problems. Are we able to engage a little more with those clinics and ensure that they're aware that they can get radar keys, I think, from the tourist information centres across Monmouthshire? If I'm correct, is that right, Dave, that we provide radar keys in our TICs?
Yeah, I think I'd call them hubs, but yeah, one of the same, I think, isn't it? To Cheryl Haskell and Abergavenny, yes. So if someone wanted a radar key, and they're not overly prescriptive, so they're not going to look at a list and say, actually, we think stoma friendly is at borderline. Yeah. They will provide that radar key. So you'd like to think that the clinics would tell them that. It's quite well known, the radar key system, isn't it? But if there is something to encourage, I'm not quite sure who tends to engage, perhaps maybe colleagues in James' section. How do we engage better with primary care, where you have people being discharged, be it hospitals and or GP surgeries? There is this radar key system, which is obviously national, isn't it? So you're off to Sheffield, you can use it. So it is a very good system. I think it's well known, but I take your point, Chair, that we could perhaps encourage that through any channels we'll have there in Iron Bevan. Actually, we have got channels, it's somehow trying to find the right people to...
Yeah, and also just whilst talking about an Iron Bevan, and if we are going to look to carry out another survey, there will be clinics, people will have to attend monthly clinics for certain illnesses. That is a great opportunity for people to fill out surveys whilst they're sat there receiving treatment. I'm just thinking of this increasing the numbers of people who participate in the in a survey and engage with us. That's just a note maybe for Angela to consider if we do get an opportunity to go back out and survey what people think. And also with regards to the bins for boys again, what are the timelines for this? Obviously you're reviewing at the moment what provisions you have available. When will we have an idea of what's required across the county for the bins for boys?
Yeah, so further to full council in December, I sent that to the necessary people, so it obviously involves the Modern Lives and everyone else. Actually covered all workplaces, so the other communities and places and everyone else, schools. But in terms of the publicly accessible ones, what do we do? My advice to colleagues has been, including landlord services, let's see what's out there. So I think it's reasonable. The sanitary bin and disabled toilets will tick that box on it in terms of for most males that may require that service. And have we got them in the ladies? So I think that'd probably be a priority personally over male provision. So there's a bit of piece of work to be done, 24, 25, what a gap analysis, if you like, isn't it? What have we got out there? I could tell you a couple, I haven't got any bins at all, be it for, wrappers in or anything. So we just need to make sure we've got some basic provision. Disabled and ladies, I would suggest, would be a priority, and then certainly look to see what have we got in terms of male provision. Just so you know, cleansing, first thing I said, is another bin to put in your drug sharps, etc. But that's something we're going to have to cross as we get to it. So to answer your question, it's gone to landlord services and cleansing. What have we got? There's a bit of a cost to that, isn't there, which isn't budgeted for currently, a revenue cost. So a provider would come out, as they do in Abergavenny, for example. There's a cost in terms of collection, which would be more than your general office space because people are a bit more random in terms of using bins in traditional toilet blocks than they would be in a workplace, for example. But certainly, we're starting the journey in terms of, I think Councillor Parver helpfully used that term, didn't he, in December, noting that there are some cost implications, some practical issues, but some of the town councils have come back and said, look, can we link with you to save some money? And if someone is trickling around in the van, the main thing is the collection, clearly, isn't it? If someone is going around the van, can we hook up with whatever MCC may be looking to provide to save on costs and a practical solution to something that impacts on the entire county? So hopefully that helps. So I can't say it's going to be July because there's a piece of work to be done to see what we got currently.
Thank you for that. So I think that's all the questions now. I'd just like to thank Angela and Dave for coming along to Place today and answering our questions. Obviously, I think the toilet strategy is always a really interesting report to go through. It helps support physical activity and fitness. People out and about, whether they're shopping, engaging in sport, walking, visitors to Monmouthshire, it's really important, and it also helps support adverse health effects. We've raised many questions and made many comments. So some of the comments and questions, obviously Councillor Bryn requested a bit more of an update with regards to stoma friendly status, the costs, some question around the Welsh Government grant of 17,200, and wanted to ensure that the website link is working because she went on this week and it wasn't. There were some concerns across the group with regards to unisex toilets and what sort of model we'd be looking to offer, and we wanted to ensure that single-sex toilets will still be available. Obviously, I understand Dave's concern around being too prescriptive in the wording of the strategy, so obviously I suggested that we look to set up a working group like we had previously. I know when Councillor Webb was part of that working group, they were looking at what we were offering, but maybe we look at something else, and this is one of the items we review. There were questions around how to improve engagement. Obviously, there was quite some low figures in certain areas of the county of those who participated in the survey, and I think we can all learn from Abergavenny Town Council, and part of that working group we could ask them to come along and speak to us and show us what they did differently. The bilingual stoma friendly stickers are outstanding at the moment, and members were keen to push ahead with getting these. There was some concern from Councillor Thomas regarding the lack of change in places spaces in Abergavenny Town Centre, and we've requested an update with regards to the Melville Centre. There was some discrepancies on the toilet map with regards to opening times, so we've asked members please send the team the updates and any changes that need to be made, and Dave will ensure that will get updated. There was some suggestion around sharp boxes and blue lights in toilets. I know we've discussed this previously. Councillor Strong raised concerns about the lack of change in places in Sevenside and how Caldicott Leisure Centre doesn't meet the requirements. We also wanted to understand a little bit more about the antisocial behaviour and vandalism of our public toilets. We need to re-engage with Gwent Police. There was very good communication previously, but that seems to have dropped off, so hopefully we'll be able to pick that up. And I think we just want to show a huge appreciation to Jan and the team who maintain our public toilets across the county. They work exceptionally hard, and having clean toilets is vitally important for visitors and our residents, so thank you. We'll move on now to the Place Scrutiny Forward Committee Forward Work Plan.
Chair, do you mind if I leave now? Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind if I leave now? Thank you ever so much to everybody. Thanks to Dave and all the team that have pulled all this together, obviously. Yeah. And it's been really interesting. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks.
So, Place Scrutiny Committee, 10th of April, we've got Climate and Nature Emergency Strategy, Nature Recovery and Food Strategy. Councillor Brown, I know that you wanted to come in here because obviously the deposit plan has been moved again. Would you just like to speak on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. It now says I think yesterday it didn't say anything, but I think now it says the 5th of December. Now, I don't know when the next, because I'm trying to look on the calendar and I don't know when the next Cabinet meeting is, because normally it goes to Cabinet and then full council. But my concern is the timing of it, so that it doesn't end up being consulted on over the Christmas holidays. That 6-week consultation should be during school time. And I'm trying to, I can't get into the council calendar quick enough to actually find when the next meetings are. But I think that there is probably a full council in December sometime. I don't know if anybody can find it quicker than me. But then when it goes to full council, it's then endorsed and then it goes pretty quickly after then to out for consultation. So are we talking about the consultation starting virtually at Christmas time, and that is not at all suitable.
No.
So I think we need some feedback on that, because it should really wait until, again, I can't find it quick enough as to what the date of the meeting on January the 2025 is, as to when the date of the next county council is then. But it's very unfair to be consulting on a 6-week consultation thing, basically during school holidays, because nobody's going to answer it properly, and nobody's going to have to, and the town and community councils won't be meeting over the Christmas New Year period anyway. So I think that needs to be looked at properly, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm just trying to have a look on the forward work plan. Rob, do you have the date in December?
My computer's decided to not let me find the dates for December, but I would just say that we are seeking clarification from the officers and have been for several weeks about some of these items that have been deferred. This is one of them, so we aren't. We are keeping on top of it, and the last I was told was that it was originally down for June, and we were therefore going to scrutinise it in our May meeting, and that then it might move from June to July, in which case we would scrutinise it in our July meeting. I haven't heard anything about December. I've asked again for clarity as to which of those two it would be. The last I was told is it would be one of those. So the idea was that it would be this side of the summer. So that's hence I took it out of the May meeting on our planner, because it might not be in our May meeting.
Okay.
But I don't know anything about December. That's new to me.
I think what's happened is I'm looking on the public web. I can't find it now. Forward work programme. Yeah, it seems to have been recently altered. And it says on, I'm looking on my iPad now, and it says 5th of December. There's an awful lot of reports then. It says replacement local development plan, electric vehicle charging strategy, Abergavenny placemaking plan, Monmouth placemaking plan, Mega placemaking plan, pavement cafe policy, Bond Life heritage strategy, and active travel plans. Well, that is ridiculous to. And actually, there's even more than that. Then designation management plan, scrutiny of steam. Well, you know, the RLDP needs a meeting on its own.
I don't think they're meant. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think they're meant to be under the 5th of December. I think they're just
end of 24, early 25.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So it's only the local development plan and electrical vehicle charging, and it's got to be confirmed under the 5th of December. What I'll do.
Oh yeah, so there's only two. There's only the there's only the RLDP and the electric vehicle. But I mean, the 5th of December. When is that going to full council?
I will write to Craig O'Connor and Councillor Griffiths this week and ask for an update on when this will be coming into place and when it will be going to consultation, because I will explain that members are concerned that the consultation will take place during school holidays, which is just not acceptable. And I know that they have extended consultations when they have been in school holidays previously, but let's see what they say, and then I'll come back to all the members in committee. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the council and cabinet work planner. Obviously, we've got concerns regard to the LDP. Is there anything anyone else wishes to raise? Okay. And got minutes are held for the 1st of February. Is everyone happy with the minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Tudor and Jane. Our next meeting is the 10th of April.
Okay.
Gosh, this year is flying by.
Is it, Chair, is it looking at, there seems to be an awful lot of items that are coming up sort of the end of the year, early 2025, and you know, it doesn't seem to be spreading out the work that we're doing properly, does it either? You know.
No.
Okay.
I'll speak with Rob and Hazel, and we'll speak with some officers, because it would be nice to bring some of these reports forward if possible.
As I say, we have been having those conversations because originally these were spread out nicely, but then a number of them got deferred. So we're trying to get them back into a spread out fashion now. But as I say, the dates, any dates that we have been given in terms of general dates, but dates nonetheless are on there, i.e. the placemaking plans. We know that those are going to be the end of the year or early next year, but everything else is still potentially to come forward, but we're just seeking clarity on which ones and when.
Yeah, because Chair, the difficulty is going to be if we have too many items at the same time, we're not going to be able to scrutinise them properly, are we?
Absolutely, yeah.
The next meeting is on that note, the next meeting is going to be something of a bumper-sized one, but the thinking was that all three of those things essentially fall under one umbrella, and it would make, because of their interlinking nature, it would make sense to scrutinise them together. So we have taken that decision, so we'll just have to strap in for a long one.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure you bring your coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, members, for your
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.